I'm Joe LaMonaco. Welcome to the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour. Right over there is Ruth Rowe Campbell from Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals. Hello, Miss Ruth. Well, hello, neighbors and friends.
Yes, thank you for calling.
This is going to be a little different show. We're going to talk about one very specific topic, and you're going to see how it relates to things that we have talked about on the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour throughout this entire year. And we're going to bring back a guest that we had on the show last month, who we get to meet in person, which I'm very happy for. I got to talk to him on the phone last time, but now he's actually in the room, and we're going to bring Clarence into the conversation. We're going to be talking about value and cost, but we're going to talk about it in a little different light, in a little different way than we have before. Ruth, why did you want to bring this topic to our audience?
It is so important for individuals who are in their homes, have loved their homes over the years, taken care of their homes, but now the home has become a burden for them. Okay. And what happened is we took Clarence out and we explored what's called independent living. Now, don't get assisted living mixed up with independent living, because the first thing people say is, oh, I want to stay in my home. That's fine. We want you to stay in your home, but we want you to know what is available for you and how the costs justify doing it.
So are we really just talking to our senior audience today?
Unfortunately, this is for 55 and older.
Okay, but not necessarily just for those people who may be the primary homeowners or property owners. If you're like me and you're the child of aging parents, I want you to listen carefully to what we're going to be talking about today, because this may help you to start having a conversation, because we're dealing with two different things. When we talk about costs and values, those can be very head and numbers and black and white. But when it comes to someone that may be in a position where downsizing out of an existing place that they have lived for 40 years or 50 years, raised a family, and all that emotional connection, we're going to try to help you balance the two out, because both of them can be very strong motivators to either stay or go.
And there's certain things, Joe, that are priceless. Priceless. Companionship, meals, security, not having the burden on you of a water heater going or an appliance going or something happened. There are things that independent living offers. Apartment living, that's all it is, apartment living. There are certain things it offers that are priceless.
And that's really where it comes down to that value versus cost, because I think what we want to do in this episode of The Truth from Ruth is to show you that truth, that there is value to be had in finding a new path forward and sort of hitting your reset button, no matter where you are in life, that you can take what you have, convert it to cash, and that's where Ruth comes in, and that's where she's so good at being a seller's agent. Convert that and use that now to help you explore what that next option can be. You don't necessarily say, well, you know what, I can't afford independent living. I can't afford to do that. I've heard the stories. It's so expensive. My home isn't possibly worth anything or even close. The things that I have accumulated within my home, that's not going to help me. But in reality, and we've talked about this over the last couple of months, the value that can be had when the right set of eyes look at something, or when you get it in front of the right set of eyes, can really open up a wider avenue for you to explore new options.
And when you clear the clutter or convert that clutter to cash, like Clarence did, we're going to hear his story, it becomes very affordable. Clear the clutter, chart a path forward, and cash in on the home.
Cash in on everything that you had built.
Exactly.
And here's the other thing that we want to make sure that we get across is that we know that it can seem daunting. If you've spent 40 years or more in one place, think of everything that you have added to that home that you've built. And then you think to yourself, boy, do I have to be responsible for getting rid of all of this or selling all of this? Do I want to take that on? We talked about this last month, is that Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals can help with both things.
Yes.
And I want to just talk just a little bit about that part of the business before we move on, is that everything, it's not just the property or the business that Ruth can help with and finding the right buyer for the physical property, the structure. It's everything inside. It's all the collections that you've had. It's all your office equipment. It's all your heavy machinery, depending on what kind of business you've been in. And we've heard all of these stories. All of it has value, and all of it can be dealt with pretty much. If it's not nailed to structure, you've told us, it's called negotiable.
It can be sold.
Yeah, and it can all get in front of the right type of buyer.
Exactly. Yes, Joe, you're exactly right.
See, I've been listening to this show for the last couple of months. So what we're going to be doing on this edition of the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour is we're going to meet Clarence again. We're going to recap a little bit of his story in case you didn't hear last month's show. We want to introduce you to him and talk about his situation, because I would suspect that Clarence's situation, as you have seen with your clients, is not very unusual, that many people get into this situation.
This is the reason Clarence agreed to come on, because his situation that he's going through right now is important for all you listeners out there, for all you young people who are dealing with parents or grandparents who are struggling in their own homes. It is important for you to know how methodical and easy it is to transition to different housing.
And what the positives can be. I think for so many people, they might look at it, maybe it's just fear. Maybe it is just fear of the unknown. I don't know what my home could be worth. I don't know what it could cost me. I don't know what it's going to feel like or look like to be in a place that I've never been in before. I have no experience with it. But maybe the idea of taking a step in that direction, at least talking to someone, you get some knowledge, and that knowledge can really help strengthen your conviction to say, yes, I'm doing this for me, not for somebody else.
Let me just make one comment,
Sure.
Joe. When we took Clarence and arranged interviews, he was interviewing independent living apartments, buildings, complexes of seniors. He turned to me and he said, wow, I didn't even know this was available.
Yeah. It's amazing what you don't know. And it opens up so many opportunities. As you mentioned right off the top, there are so many opportunities that are available to you. And if you don't ask, you don't know.
And it's not just the apartments. There are villas available, which are little single-family homes.
And they're so adorable.
Cottages,
they
they call
great.
them. Okay. And they're out there, and seniors should know about them.
Okay, so we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to reintroduce you to Clarence. We're going to hear a little bit about his story. And then Ruth and Clarence are going to help me tell you how this process worked, about how Clarence was able to say, whoa, go from, I didn't know this was available, to standing on the precipice. He's not there yet, but he's getting to the point where he's ready to make that next step. And he's doing it with information and with Ruth and her team on his side to help the process get going. The Truth from Ruth Radio Hour continues next on News Radio WHAM 1180. Welcome back to the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour on News Radio WHAM 1180. Miss Ruth, I'm just going to set you aside for just a moment.
Thank you,
Because I have a gentleman over here to my left. This is Clarence. Nice to meet you in person. Thank you for being on the phone with us last month, and it's good to see you in person.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you here. And as Ruth mentioned at the beginning of the show, we're going to be talking about your story so that we can potentially help others who might be in a similar situation to you understand that there are options they may not know about that could benefit them. So I want to recap, in case people didn't hear your talk with us last month, why don't you tell us a little bit about what your situation was like? You had been in your home for how many years?
We've been married 60 years.
60 years. You and your wife were together for 60 years. You've been in the same house for that 60 years?
No, we've been in 2 houses over the period.
Over that period. But your wife passed away a few years ago.
In 2022.
So you were now in a I would suspect, pretty substantially large house all by yourself.
Exactly.
What, at that time, did you feel like, well, this is my situation. I live alone now. I'm a widower. I have this property. I guess I'm just going to be here for the rest of my life. Was that where you were thinking you were going to have to be?
Initially, yes.
Okay. Did you know about what could be available to you if you were to choose to say, maybe I don't want to stay here? Or was it a giant unknown? I don't know what's available to me.
Well, some friends that I'm pretty close to kept telling me, Clarence, you got to look at independent living.
Okay.
And the sooner, the better. I initially started getting rid of stuff in the house, primarily collections that my wife had, and that's how I got engaged with Ruth.
Oh, my. An engagement, Miss Ruth. How about that?
And she took all these kind of new avenues and tried them, and they worked very successfully.
I'm just going to bob over to Miss Ruth here. So that's how you first met Clarence, is through the collections and collectibles.
We've been downsizing Clarence's collections now for about 5 years.
Okay. And so you wound up having a relationship with Ruth to handle things inside your home.
Yes.
Then it has changed, and now you're looking to downsize out of your home. You're ready to make that move. So how did that conversation start with Ruth to help you not only figure out the value of your home, what you could potentially get when you sell it, to helping you see what could be next for your living situation?
Well, the big thing about thinking about this change was try to figure out as best I can my costs now.
Okay.
And I've done that, and it's amazing how much money I spend just in keeping a home.
Okay.
And I'm also, some of my health problems, my walking and so on, is not helping me living alone.
Okay.
So that's when I asked Ruth, based on her experiences already, if she had any idea about this independent living, which I didn't know where they were in anything. And she took me and made some appointments, and I determined almost instantly that this is something I really had to do.
But wasn't it an eye-opener for you?
Oh, very much so.
When you saw these places, having only an idea of what it could be, then you get inside. What was some of those initial attractions to you to say, you know what? This is a good decision for me to make, to leave the home and the costs of my home, both physically, and financially, and go to a place that's much more reasonable for me.
Well, the biggest reason is I would need to be around more people.
Sure.
My business attracted me to people all through my career in the food business. Uh-huh. And when I see with these trips to these independent places, the people, what they were doing, they're milling around, they're enjoying each other, and that really determined right away that I really needed to do something like that, because my life has been spent around people.
Right.
And I really get very lonesome at home now.
You've got, you have all the space but all the space with no one to share it with
Exactly.
is not a great situation to be. You mentioned something. I want to bring Ruth back into the conversation. Clarence mentioned the costs of keeping a home. It's something that we hadn't really talked about a whole lot, and I know we're kind of skipping ahead, and we're going to come back to this again, but that's something that we want to make sure people understand, is that the cost of a home is not just your taxes that you pay on it or your insurance every year. There's so much more to that equation, isn't there?
Absolutely. And we will discuss that in detail.
Because when you're figuring out what am I paying to what am I getting, when I suppose Ruth helped you understand that there was an imbalance there to what the actual costs of keeping your home were, to what you could potentially get for your dollars by moving to an independent living arrangement.
Correct.
So at this point, you've not sold your home yet.
No.
But at this point, where do you think you are in your heart about your preparedness to step into this next chapter for you?
I'm ready for it.
Yeah? Are you sort of itching to get going?
Yes, I am, very much so.
Being the social butterfly you are, I can suspect that they're getting back around other people. The value of being around other people alone, I think maybe you would agree that was one of the best benefits that you're going to potentially get from this new situation, wherever that happens to be.
Yes. I feel that way, very much so.
We haven't. That's another thing. It's those intangible values, Miss Ruth, is
priceless.
Yeah, when you talk about those things that maybe we don't necessarily consider when we're thinking about, is this the right move for me? Maybe you're only thinking about it in dollars and cents. How much is it going to cost me every month to be in this place and so forth? But when you calculate that against what you could potentially benefit from by making a move, by saying, I need to get this weight off of me, so that I would imagine that it also maybe opens up your life again in a way that maybe some seniors don't think their lives are going to open up again.
Well, one of the things that surprised me with Clarence is the meals. Mm-hmm. They serve restaurant-style meals. Now, you have your own apartment with your own kitchen, so you can cook if you want to, okay? But there are full-service restaurant meals, sometimes 2, even 3 times a day.
Well,
and
they
socialize.
The unit that I want to go to, Studies, they have 3 meals a day.
Fantastic.
And that was
and
important to them.
And I find myself now going to Wegmans maybe twice a day, sometimes 3 times.
Exactly. Now, talk about a value there. Not having to travel and shop for yourself. Not only that, but it's kind of like you're living a country club life every day, where you get to socialize and someone can take care of you a little bit.
Exactly.
It's wonderful. It really is.
All right, we're up against,
and it's very affordable as well.
We're up against a break. Yeah, all of that. And yes, it is affordable. So how do you then get the most value out of your property so that you can use that as your ammunition to move forward? We're going to come back after this break and talk more with Ruth and Clarence on the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour right here on NewsRadio WHAM 1180. Back for the second half of the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour on News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Joe LaMonaco. Ruth Rowe Campbell's over there.
Thank you, Joe.
Clarence is over here. And we've been talking about... This section of the show we're going to talk about is we call Embracing a New Lifestyle. And we've heard Clarence's story. Married for 60 years, widowed a few years ago, being alone in a big house, and not necessarily knowing what options existed beyond the walls of your house. And fortunately, we know you're a WHAM listener, so thank you very much for being in our audience. And we know that you heard about Ruth on the station, and you gave us a call saying, "Connect me to that lady." And I'm glad.
I want to talk to that woman.
That woman. Well, I'm glad that we were able to do that. So as Miss Ruth tells me, They had assisted you here at Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals with setting up some appointments to go and see some senior living communities. Now, I know they set up like a half a dozen of them, but you only made it to like 50% of them, and then you found your place. Did you know as soon as you kind of walked in and took a look around that's like, this feels like home to me, this could be home to me?
I have to come into this and respond to that question. When we drove up into the facility that he found, he loved, he told me before we even got in the door, I am not going to be happy. This is not the facility I want. But once we got in and he saw the smiles on the staff and the individuals there, Clarence was sold.
So you judged a book by its cover a little bit,
Well,
eh?
and the second reason is everything was so easy getting around that whole operation there.
Okay.
And with my walking, I use a cane, and it was very helpful because everything was in close proximity to the center of the building.
We didn't ask this before, but I'll just get some context now. So your home currently, multi-level?
Yes. Well, you can. Yes, it's.
Are you able to adequately use all spaces in your home currently?
No.
Okay.
Because of my walking.
Okay. So by getting out of your home and into a new place, it sort of opens up now every aspect of this new facility to you, this new complex to you, because there are less or maybe no limitations because they understand that many people like you have mobility challenges.
Yes, it's perfect. I mean, there was no very little convincing after this opportunity at Socialist.
But he did investigate thoroughly, both financially, socially wise. I mean, Clarence did a very thoughtful. He did not jump at the first sales pitch. Okay.
The three places that I went to are all very, very fine organizations. What's the one on
Solstice?
No, we went to downtown.
You went to St. John's.
St. John's.
Okay.
Wonderful. My CPA, he has a couple people there, and he says, Clarence, I think you'll love this place. But it didn't appeal to me.
Okay, is something about the place that you found, and that's Solstice, I believe, is the place that you like. It spoke to you, and I would imagine it was a combination of things, and it had to hit kind of a bullseye for you. Were you looking for that balance between what it was going to cost you, like the dollars cost for you, but also knowing that you had so much more that you could do with your day and feel safe and confident that you could do it on your own?
Yes, very much so. There's no question in my mind that that's a place for me.
Now, I want to go back a few years for you, 3 years ago, to when your wife passed. And I want you to maybe tell us the difference in how you feel today, knowing where you can go, to where you felt 3 years ago. Did you think at the time that being in your home was just going to be, that was it, and you didn't have any other options?
Well, I wasn't familiar with any of these operations, and at that time, also 24 hours a day, my wife was not well.
Okay, so you were a primary caregiver,
she begged me not
to
take her to a nursing home, a hospital, or I want to stay right here.
Okay.
So we were pretty confined to, Wanda was pretty sick. When she passed, she only weighed 50 pounds, so you can well imagine.
Right. But
heartbreaking.
How did you feel about staying in the home afterwards?
Well, initially, I didn't. It wasn't hitting me very good initially.
Okay.
You just don't know.
Although I started to realize this is getting very lonely. And then it wasn't long after that. And then that's when I even started digging into selling all of Wanda's collections.
Okay. So it was a long-term process for Clarence, Ruth.
It was 5 years to
Right.
get to this point, but also what is critical is the security just in case there is a fall.
Right.
Okay?
And I've
A
fallen
trip and
twice.
fall.
Oh, you have?
Somebody is around immediately to assist, and you are not on the ground waiting for help.
That is, again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier in the show, and that value. And sometimes it's an intangible thing. You can't really you can't quantify, you can't put a dollar amount on it. But to know that, I mean, being in a home by yourself, it may be some time before someone would come to the front door or had to come in and take a look at you.
God forbid.
At least in moving to independent living, you've got other people around you who are going to notice very rapidly if, like, where's Clarence? We haven't seen him for a bit. He didn't come down to lunch today. We need to go and look in on him.
Correct.
They start calling
Yeah.
if you don't show up
The
for
phone
lunch.
tree activates. I would
friends.
imagine. So you knew you kind of found your space, and I know you said earlier in the program that you're kind of ready to go. You feel that you're getting ready, I would suspect, to start over a bit, and even at your age, you can start over, and you can be like a little bit of a, well, I'm a young single man again, and now I'm going into a new
Friendship.
environment.
There's nothing wrong with friendship and socialization.
It is probably one of the greatest things medically that you can do for yourself to protect your longevity, is to be around other people and to have those social connections. And
Definitely.
what a great thing to look forward to.
And what's beautiful about it is you have your own apartment, your home living. If you want to stay home and shut the door, you just feel like watching TV by yourself, it's okay.
Last 60 seconds that we have to spend with you, it can seem overwhelming to have to divest yourself of everything that you have accumulated over a lifetime, to say goodbye to a home that you had built a life in. How has working with Ruth and the team here at Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals made it seem a little less overwhelming so that you can look forward to what's going to happen next?
They've been helped me. I can't tell you how much they've helped me because I've got too much furniture in this house. But the big house we had in Pittsburgh when we moved out here, we moved way too much stuff, and it's still here. And how I really knew is when the water heater Saturday afternoon went down on the blink.
Jeez.
So water all over the place. And we got guys who are coming to get the water out. And then the, what they call that lady to get for your insurance came.
The adjusters.
Said, Mr. Houck, you got to get all new rugs.
If any divine sign was coming to say you've made the right choice, Clarence,
that
I
was it.
believe you've been baptized and you are ready to go.
Yes.
And we are up against our last break. And so we're going to come back and we're going to land the plane with Miss Ruth. Okay, so you've made the choice. You're going to downsize. How then are you going to maximize the value of what you are going to leave behind and what you're going to move on to new homes and those costs, water heater notwithstanding, that you might be walking away from so that you can apply those dollars to things that benefit you, really benefit you, and your social and emotional and physical well-being as you move on to that next chapter. So we're going to do that when we return to wrap things up on this edition of the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour, next on News Radio WHAM 1180. Back to wrap things up on the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour on News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Joe LaMonaco with Ruth Rowe Campbell from Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals at digginfordeals.com. Want to thank Clarence for coming back and sharing that story again. Boy, I want to get him a nice housewarming present, too, for wherever he's going. It seems so exciting. And that's the key part, one of the key takeaways here, is that moving out of a home that you may have built a life in and onto independent living, I know it can seem that there's some fear of the unknown there, but I'm hearing from Clarence that it's like it's the wonder of opportunity and the excitement of what's to come. And I think if we can leave you with that takeaway, then that might help people pick up their pace a little bit to say, yep, it's time to get this stone out from on my shoulders and free myself up to continue living my best life.
The seniors, in my experience, Joe, really do not know what is available for them and how affordable it is. And that's what we want to discuss is the cost of home ownership versus even what Clarence found in his search.
So let's talk about that cost here, because Clarence said that, he wound up having to replace a water heater and maybe carpets in his house. I mean, that's just only one of the things.
That was a nice surprise.
That was a nice surprise there,
wasn't
wasn't it? Good Lord. So, the cost of maintaining a home, we know everything's up, right?
Right.
Okay.
True.
So how do you calculate the real costs so that you have the right information to make that kind of financial decision?
Well, these days you use AI.
Okay.
And you say, hello, computer, give me the costs of a typical home in Monroe County, which is our area. And what I discovered recently is that even if you have your mortgage paid off, in other words, you have your home free and clear of all liens and you've worked hard to do that. Now there's the tax man, the insurance man. You may have HOA fees, but there's also the utilities, heating and air conditioning, water. You may have an emergency generator, okay? And everyone in our area has lawn care, landscaping, and snow removal. Pest control. And God forbid you are out an appliance, a dishwasher, a water heater, your furnace goes, you need a roof.
So we're looking at potentially an average cost here. Geez, I don't even know what to quantify it.
Well, AI told us that even if your mortgage is paid off, you are spending between $2,000 and $3,500 a month to maintain, just to live in the home. Period.
And that's not costing other things like your grocery bill.
No.
Your
meals.
Gas
no.
for your car and auto
no.
insurance.
Health insurance, and if you're alone.
Yeah.
It's traumatic.
And what about the costs of or the value of companionship and security? You can't even put a price tag on that.
No, there are priceless. Now, we are not trying to move seniors out of their homes.
Right.
If you want to stay in your home, this is a free country and you can stay in your home. Nothing says you have to leave.
But you
should
know.
You should know as a senior what is available to you in today's new world that we live in.
They have made some incredible advancements in these independent living communities.
In senior care.
And you should also know that there is value in that home of yours and everything that is in it that is not nailed down. And we talk all the time, Ruth, about maximizing those dollars. So let's talk just a little bit nuts and bolts here about when you're considering selling. Maybe you've been thinking about it and it's like, okay, it's time to go. How do you know what that property that you have is worth, both inside the home and the home itself?
That's a good question, Joe. But the first thing that a senior should think about is, how can I downsize my personal? Do you have any collectibles? Those things that you've been collecting all your life. Is there any value? Is there any value to your furniture, your paintings, your this, your that, everything that's in the home? Then all of a sudden now you take the leap. And you say, I'm going to go out, I'm going to make myself aware of what senior facilities are out there for me. And you see how affordable they are. and how bright and cheerful and clean and acceptable having an apartment, going back to apartment living. Now we get to the big prize.
Okay.
And the big prize is, what is the house actually worth? And like my commercial said that I did on WHAM, your friendly radio station, if you had a home, if you purchased a home just 5 years ago in our area, you spent $150,000. What is that house worth today, 5 years later? And an astounding $240,000. So just in 5 years, our real estate has gone up 60%. The market is still going strong. Isn't this a good time to sell?
Isn't this a fantastic time to approach it from a different perspective, to maximize your value by utilizing an auction platform, not only for the things inside your home, to downsize collections or things that you have accumulated over those years that have value, but also to get the most from that piece of property by minimizing your costs out of pocket, negotiating
absolutely.
down to everything that can be negotiated down, so that you have something of value to utilize and move forward into that next chapter, which, as Ruth just told you, can be far more affordable than you thought it was. Removing all of those costs of home ownership that you don't think about. You think you're going to get to a finish line by paying off a mortgage. Oh, no, you don't. You don't necessarily go backwards anytime at all. You still have those ongoing costs if you're ready to. But what do you want to say to that person who's still kind of nervous, who's still kind of like, I don't know if I want to go. I'm too attached to this. I can't possibly leave this all behind. I don't know what's ahead of me.
I would say just be aware. And then call Clarence, and he'll tell you.
Clarence is going to be your ambassador for senior living, isn't he? But at the end of the day, and Clarence's story, though specific to him, is not that unusual.
No, it's not.
And there are many others that are in similar positions, some of whom I would suspect may hold on to things longer than is necessary or reasonable for them to do. And if they just are able to
take the step today.
How about just call Ruth?
Ruth. She'll talk to you.
And have the conversation with her, and she can answer some very specific questions that may pertain to your situation. You might have more at your disposal than you think, number one. Number two, the market's doing great. So if any time was the time to say, by value, you can get more for your property, this might be an opportune time. And Rochester and the Monroe County area, and even our surrounding areas, have made great improvements in what is available to older adults to continue to live on their own. Many people think that they can't live independently if they leave their home. Yes, you can. And there are a lot of choices. It's not just a one and done. You have the ability to be choosy and to make a new life for yourself. Remember you said apartment living. It's like when we were
with friends.
When you were in your 20s. Can it be like being back in your 20s again?
It can.
And you don't have to cook for yourself if you
don't
want
have to cook. You have 3 meals. They do trips. You have your own apartment. You can stay home if you like and shut the door. And if not, there's other people.
Balancing costs and value. That's what we've been trying to talk about here. If you have more questions, reach out to Ruth Rowe Campbell at Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals. Find her contact information at digginfordeals.com. Ruth answers the phone. She's here, and she'd be happy to talk with you. Ruth Rowe Campbell, thank you so much.
You.
Clarence, thank you very much for being here with us as well.
Clarence.
We will see you again next month. In the meantime, always find Ruth Rowe Campbell and the team at Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals at digginfordeals.com. I'm Joe LaMonaco. Thanks for spending time with us here on the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour. We'll catch up with you next time on News Radio WHAM 1180.